Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Harsh to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Good evening, Patriots. I am back. It has been quite some time since I have done a show for personal reasons. I'm so happy to be back. We probably have the biggest election of our lifetimes coming up in just a few short weeks, and the left is going absolutely berserk, and they are more desperate than I have ever seen the left. Kamala Harris is not qualified to do this job. We all know that Kamala Harris is not qualified to do this job. I believe the majority of Americans will vote for Donald Trump. However, this is a very close race. So make sure you get out, you vote early, and you vote now, today. Stop what you're doing. Make sure you cast your vote. That is what's going to make or break the difference in this election. So recently, Kamala Harris came out and gave this wonderful speech. It was the big October surprise. So every election cycle, in October, there's like a nuclear bomb dropped on the opposing person's campaign, usually a surprise scandal. Somebody comes out and they say, oh, this person touched me in my no-no place 50 years ago, and it's this huge thing. So typically the October surprise, you're waiting for something to happen about the campaign. And Kamala comes out. She walks out of the White House onto a pretend podium that has the Vice President of the United States seal on it. And she makes this announcement. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing and cringeworthy.
We have breaking news. Vice President Harris is speaking at the residence before she participates as a CNN town hall tonight in Chester Township. Let's listen.
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within.
Couple of things. Let's stop it right there before we move any forward. All of this information is allegedly coming from John Kelly, who was the former Donald Trump chief of staff. So for years and years, never mentions this throughout all of the criminal trials, throughout all of the accusations, throughout all of the nonsense that's gone on with this election, whether it was Biden running or Kamala Harris running. Now, all of a sudden, 2 weeks before election, he comes out and says that Donald Trump, quote, said, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. Just out of nowhere. Now, mind you, this was said in a room of people, allegedly, right? Because we don't know if it was said. It may have been said. I doubt it, considering everybody else in the room says that it didn't happen and there's nobody else to corroborate this story. But the left, Kamala walks out of the White House like she's the president, giving this fake speech on news that isn't on just an accusation.
Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews.
Oh, she had to throw the Jews in there because she needs the Jewish vote. But Kamala supports Palestine and Hamas and wants to defund the Israelis' military capacity. Wants to send billions of dollars to illegal immigrants and billions of dollars to Ukraine. But after Israel was massacred on October 7th in one of the worst terrorist attacks in world history, we want to kind of use this moment here to win over the Jews. Good luck with that.
And hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room.
Notice that she says people when it was one person.
And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop.
But John Kelly didn't do anything. He didn't even mention it to anybody or bring up this grave danger while he was president or since he's been president. So in the past, I don't know, could have been 8 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 4 years ago. In that amount of time, he's taken no action to do anything. But we're supposed to believe this accusation 2 weeks before the election, as if it's going to sway anybody's mind. This is not any new information here. This is not a new accusation from the left. It's just what they say. He's literally Hitler. Well, why? Well, because we don't like him, essentially. Orange man bad.
Him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this. We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
Oh, no questions. She can't take questions from the press. She's got to turn around and walk in.
Vice President, do you have any reaction to what the president said about locking him up?
Oh, they're asking
As
questions.
Vice President Harris speaking outside the vice presidential residence, talking about comments allegedly made by Trump's.
Allegedly made. Yeah, of course. Because that's all that they are. Now, of course, that didn't stop Hillary Clinton from posting this Trump quote, "I need the kind of generals Hitler had. No words, only one vote." Now, if this is not corroborated information, wouldn't this be, I don't know, election interference? I wonder if in history somebody has ever posted anything online that was considered election interference because it was false information and then went to jail. Well, let's look. Oh, man faces 10 years in prison after conviction for attempting to suppress the vote through social media disinformation campaign. Can we guess whose vote they were accused of attempting to suppress? Hillary Clinton's. 10 years. For a satire post that said, avoid the line, vote from home, text Hillary to 59925. 10 years in federal prison for this misinformation. But Hillary Clinton has carte blanche to post just an accusation. So the guy's name was Douglas McKay, also known as Ricky Vaughn, and he was actually convicted and sentenced to jail. But this is the world that we live in. The ones in power are corrupt, and they can do anything that they want and get away with murder. Literally. And they're completely desperate at this point. This race is very close according to the polls. Now, what we did see in 2016 is that, Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, and that was a major catastrophe. I mean, she didn't even come close. And then in 2020, Joe Biden was supposed to win by a landslide, and it was very, very close. So are the polls skewed? Have they corrected that problem since then? Or are we going to see what we did see in 2020, which was a huge upset and disappointment? Now, we did see after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, we did see Joe Biden come out and said, hey, everybody cool down the rhetoric. Things are getting out of control. The left is telling people to lock Trump up. They were actually going after him. Now, if you remember when Donald Trump ran for president against Hillary Clinton, he did lock her up, but he actually never tried to. It was just a campaign slogan. But Biden recently, after his actual Department of Justice has been trying to lock up his political opponent, now his vice president's political opponent said this.
This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
Oh, we got to lock Donald Trump up. But we all know that Joe Biden has actually been attempting to lock up Donald Trump, and that they're going to continue. If Donald Trump does not win this election, he is going to be facing jail time. If he does win this election, it's all just going to go away. They can say or try or maybe do anything, but at the end of the day, you're not going to lock up a sitting president of the United States. Now, yes, if he does win and when he gets out of office, they could try to go after him again, but there's no incentive. The only incentive to lock him up now and to put him on trial now is to stop him from winning the election. And they want to stop him from winning the election because they are terrified. And they're not terrified of anything logical. They're terrified that they are going to face the repercussions of violating the law that they violated by going after Donald Trump, by using the justice system as a weapon to go after their political opponents, like we see in a banana republic. But nothing will stop the left from getting what they want. Those in power and those will always abuse power to win or to get their way. That's why we have the system of government that we have. That's why we have all these checks and balances. But the left has infiltrated so many aspects of our society and control everything that all of the information is controlled. Department of Education, schools and colleges owned by liberals, Hollywood movies, media, newspapers owned by liberals, big tech, social media companies owned by liberals. And they use this power to thwart and change a message. However, the majority of the American people are conservative. And it's really hard to sway them onto that other side, which is why the right still wins. The left has so much power, so much control over all of the information, all over all of the systems within our government, city transportation, city unions, that they still can't win, which tells you where the American people's politics actually are. Now, Tulsi Gabbard recently came out at a Trump rally in Georgia, and she's the one who is famous for leaving the Democratic Party, saying that they are completely woke. They completely lost their minds and lost their way. She still has some left-wing positions, which is fine. It doesn't mean that we hate them or anything like that. She's entitled to her own opinions. But she came out and actually, just listen to this.
Gabbard.
Aloha, Georgia. Amazing. It is so inspiring and electrifying to be here with all of you here tonight. How many veterans or members of the military we got in the crowd? So we got 12 days and a wake up till Election Day. The heat is on. It's funny how crazy things have been and how much has changed. You know, I was a Democrat for over 20 years. The Democrat Party that I joined is completely unrecognizable today.
And you hear that a lot. You hear that from Robert F. Kennedy. You hear that from Tulsi Gabbard. There are a lot of old school Democrats that are like, we did not sign up for this radical, far left agenda that they are ramming down everybody's throats.
I never would have imagined that we would have a Democrat Party under Kamala Harris that is anti-freedom. It's the party of war. It's the party of censorship. It's the party of open borders, and it's the party of poverty. Who would have thought that Kamala Harris and Dick Cheney would define today's Democrat Party? What's crazy to me is when Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney announced their endorsement of Kamala Harris, I thought, gosh, you know, the old Democrat Party would have said thanks but no thanks, because we're a party of peace. Not anymore. Kamala Harris, without even pretending to care about peace, shamelessly embraced their endorsements, and the endorsements of those who care more about power and feeding the war machine than they do about taking care of our brothers and sisters in Western North Carolina right now.
What she's referring to is the hurricane that came through in North Carolina that it just obliterated Asheville. And FEMA is allegedly out of money because, according to the New York Post today, they have spent $150 billion on illegal immigrants that are flooding the border. While our own American citizens who lost their homes due to a storm that work and pay taxes cannot utilize this service to help them because it's all gone to illegals.
It's outrageous to me that here we are 12 days out from Election Day, and we have a presidential candidate who is celebrating sending hundreds of millions of our taxpayer dollars to help other people in other countries, supposedly help them, while turning her back on our fellow Americans who need help the most right now. We have friends who are veterans who are still out there in Western North Carolina, who are still getting out there to the small towns, who have not seen anyone from any government agency show up to help them. And their sole message to those who I met when I was out there and those who are coming and delivering whatever we possibly can to help them survive the cold at night, saying, please don't forget us. But that's what we have in the Kamala Harris presidency. If she were to be allowed to serve there as a person who doesn't care about us and who has forgotten the American people. Nothing short of freedom and our ability to live in a truly free and peaceful and prosperous country is on the line in this election. Never before have we seen a Republican pose a greater threat to the uniparty war machine in Washington than Donald J. Trump.
And she's not wrong. She's talking about how Donald Trump had 0 wars during his entire presidency. He leaves office. Then all of a sudden we're at war with Ukraine, and the Middle East is in a fiery blaze, and the world is burning to the ground. And we're headed towards World War III. She's not wrong.
Why are they doing this? They are doing this because he has the courage to take on and root out the deep corruption and rot that exists in the entrenched Washington establishment. And he's doing it for us. No matter what they throw at him, when you look at him, it seems like his resolve grows stronger and stronger. He is not backing down. So we face a pivotal time as Americans, regardless of anyone's political affiliation. The choice for us is very clear. We have a choice between a presidential candidate who has shown through her record that she would have a presidency of more war, and more war, and pushing us to the brink of nuclear war. She would have a presidency that is against free speech, not hesitating to use the levers of her power to retaliate against political opponents, as she has done with Donald Trump, as she has done with Bobby Kennedy, and she has done with me.
Correct. I mean, even Mark Zuckerberg came out and said that the Biden administration did pressure them, Facebook, to take content down.
They went so far as one day after, when Kamala Harris was announced that she would be the nominee going forward to replace Joe Biden, I spoke out on Fox News about how dangerous that would be for us as Americans if she were to be the person with the nuclear codes.
I don't think she could figure out how to work the nuclear football.
The very next day, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. No explanation, no due process. It was federal air marshal whistleblowers who were so disgusted by being used as pawns by this administration, who doesn't hesitate to abuse their power, that they came forward and told the truth. This is what we need more of in our country. Now, for those of you who may have friends or family or coworkers, or those who you know in your lives who haven't made up their minds yet in this election, I encourage you to have those conversations. Listen to their concerns. Turn down all of the noise and the propaganda that is flooding the airwaves, and focus on what is most important to every one of us, and that is our God-given rights and freedoms enshrined in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. The vision that our founders had for us, that every one of us as Americans has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is up to us to save our country. Every one of us as Americans. Our founders put in our founding documents that our government will not exist without the consent of the governed.
Do they have the consent of the governed to censor what you post on social media? To throttle what you post on social media? Now, a private company can do whatever they want, right? We've had that discussion before on this show. But if the government uses their force and their authority to either pressure or force a company to do something to suppress people, that's a violation of your basic human rights. That's a violation of your right to speak freely without repercussion.
When they wrote those words, "We the people," that is and was and always will be a direct call to action to every one of us to fulfill our responsibility as citizens in this country to defend our freedom, because our freedom is on the line. So when we go to cast our votes, how many of you have already voted? All right. So that means the work you got to do over the next 12 days is to find at least 10 people in your lives who have not voted, convince them why it is important to stand together to defend our freedom and vote for Donald Trump, and don't stop calling them until they tell you that they've actually voted. Our ability to live in a truly free and peaceful and prosperous society is what is at stake in this election, and that affects all of us, no matter who we are or where we come from. There's no doubt in my mind that President Trump is our best and only hope in this election to lead our country, to save our country, and to save the world, bringing peace not only here at home, but abroad. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for freedom. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for secure borders and safe communities. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for peace. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for every one of us as Americans to be able to stand strong and proud and recognize that in this country we are once again that shining city on a hill that is committed to our Constitution and our way of life.
She's not wrong. And she goes on to actually join the Republican Party after years and years as a Democrat, not for any personal political gain, which, you know, maybe now that she's coming out and speaking now, but when she had done this a few years ago, or a year ago, whenever it was, she had no political gain whatsoever. She only had political backlash. That's the only thing she would get from that, or she got from that. She didn't get any benefit from that. The party hated her. She was ostracized. She was put on a terrorist watch list. The Democratic Party stands for oppression. They are the true fascists. They're not. There is nothing that they stand for freedom on. Nothing. They stand for big government, more programs, more spending, more control, a stronger centralized government, and less rights for you. The left is wrong, and the right is right. And this is, they say this every election. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Well, guess what? This election is the most important election of our lifetime. And if you want to be free, you need to go out and you need to vote. You need to stop what you're doing and you need to go vote. It doesn't matter what excuse you give yourself. You need to go out and vote. It's your fundamental right as a human being in the United States. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Ryan Samuels. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. It is so great to be back with my Patriots. Make sure you follow on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube. And if you're listening on the podcast, please download this episode. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to The Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.